How much does each household owe in terms of their financial debt in America? Take a guess. I will not ask you any more. It's $104,000 each. And it's a part of the greater whole. As the US economy, we currently have over $35 trillion of debt. Now, that's a lot of debt. And for us personally, the only way, the only road back, if you will, for us being able to turn around our economy, national economy, is to do it from a personal standpoint. And that personal standpoint is we all have to be responsible for the debt that's being created in our country. And not only must we do it, we must do it now. So, today, what I'm going to be talking about is how you can use a growth mindset to unlock financial freedom. Now, it's not going to be easy for any of us, but we're going to have to take that journey. We're going to have to take a financial journey. So, my name is Paul Lawrence Van. I'm a certified financial manager, and I have been for so many years. And my expertise is money and finances. And I'm going to share with you during this episode what it's going to take to turn this around. Now, I'm going to have another video that's going to come after this, another podcast episode that will come after this. But for now, we're going to just cover the fundamentals. So I have 5 things that I'm going to share with you. And let me put my screen up here so you can see what I'm talking about. And what we're going to be doing is looking at the 5 things that can lead to debt freedom. So if you're with me, let's do this. We must be willing to address our money challenges. Until we address our money challenges, nothing will change. Everything will remain the same. And as they say, when you're in a hole and you're trying to get out, you have to do what? Stop digging. So we must also be able to develop a debt-free mindset. What is a mindset? A mindset is how we view the world. And specifically for this episode is how we view our finances. So we want to have a financial mindset. And then we want to make some plans, take some action, and get stable. We need to stabilize our finances, not yesterday, but today. Let's do this. And then we want to look at a growth money mindset, which I will cover in this session as well. And last but not least, we need to start planning for our financial freedom, and we must start it today. So it's very important for us to all understand that when we talk about this national debt of 35 trillion, the number one issue that voters have this year is economics, the finances, the budget, the tabletop issues, milk, bread, those type and eggs, those type of things that affect us immediately. We might as well add gas in there because gas is also an issue because of the price. And so as we're going through this hyperinflationary period of which we've been through, a part of it is the result of the COVID-19 and the pandemic. But we also must understand that when we look back at the year 2008, when we had the Great Recession, we must do everything that we can to avoid going through that again. And so, what we're talking about here is looking at the experiencing financial challenges, and we must address it head on. And if we don't, we're going to get deeper and deeper into that hole. We'll never be able to get out of that hole because we continue to dig ourselves deeper and deeper and deeper. And that's not what we want. We want to be able to have that avenue in which we can not only have a springboard for getting out of debt, but staying out of debt, mastering our money, and having financial freedom. And so, one of the things that we can do, as I mentioned before, we talk about is having a debt free mindset. Now, you can picture this young lady here, and she's just thinking, now, how am I going to get out of debt? And we must all ask ourselves this question: Paul, how are you going to get out of debt? And then to you, I want you to ask yourself this question: if you're in debt, how am I going to get out of debt? So I'm going to share some strategies with you today that's going to help you. And it's really going to make a tremendous difference. But we have to have a debt-free mindset, which means that we are having the relationship with our money. And our money wants us to have a relationship with it, and it wants us to grow it. And we remember, and I remember that in the time that I was growing up, my parents might have said that money doesn't grow on trees. And I wanted to say it so bad, but mom and dad, it really does grow on trees because paper money, at least, comes from a tree, right? And so it's just a matter of understanding our money. Now, when we look at a debt free mindset, when do we want to start this process? We want to start it now. And the reason why we need to start it now is because there's no way we're going to come up from under this debt until we start being proactive about it. And then we want to make some plans to take some real action and achieve financial stability. It reminds me of the story that I read in a video that I saw, and it was about Robert Kiyosaki. He, of course, wrote the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad, which was an outstanding book. And by the way, it's the #1 personal development book in all of the universe. And but it wasn't all the ways that way for him. And as the result was with Mr. Kiyosaki, he was in debt that just his wife didn't even know about it. That's how much debt he had. She didn't even know he was in that much debt. But he owed investors and personal loans, and he was about to be bankrupt. And then he had a conversation with her, and he had to fess up to say, "Well, honey, we're in a lot of debt." And as a result, uh, Robert Kiyosaki was recommended to write letters to his lenders, loan officers, investors, and just state, well, I'm in this situation financially. And even though I can't pay you right now, I ultimately will. And he did. But thanks to his wife, that she really encouraged him to just own up to the mistake he made. And so, what do we need to do? We just need to own up to what we have in terms of our debt, and we need to do something about it. We need to be proactive about it. And that's part of what I'm sharing with you right now. And as a result of this, it's very important that we not only address where we are with our money, but we need to do it. Now, one way to do it is by setting up a budget. A budget is going to entail a few things here, and a few things going to include what your income or what is your revenue that you're bringing in, let's say each month. And then we need to look at what of our expenses are each month. And then we want to be able to subtract the expenses from the income, and that's going to give us the our net amount of money that we have left over after we've paid our bills or made a deposit for savings, or we have taken our money and invested it. Because ultimately, that's what we want to go. We want to go from paying off all of our debts and not getting in debt again. We don't want to be in that quicksand situation where we get out of debt and go right back into it. That's not good for anyone. And as a result, we want to pay that off, and then we start saving money. And by saving money, it's positioning us to invest money. So we have a transition. Then we also want to have an emergency fund, because an emergency fund are those days that we're not anticipating if a vehicle breaks down, or we have to have a home repair, or we have to go to the hospital, have medical expenses. And so we're talking about all of these things that have gotten us into these situations. You know, the #1 and the top concern that most people have is about their mortgage and their ability to pay it, and their credit card bills and their student loans. And then they're looking at their medical bills. And all of these things add up and they cause stress in our lives. And so we want to be in a position where we don't have that. We do in fact live the good life, and the good life has been peace and peace of mind. And so that's something that I really wanted to share with you all because it's very important. It impacts all of us. We're just humans, human beings. We're spiritual beings having a earthly experience, if I may. And so let's now talk about the growth money mindset. Now, to me, this is what it's all about. This money growth, this growth money mindset. And first of all, just like what Robert Kiyosaki's wife encouraged him to contact and take on the challenge of being responsible and being accountable for the debts that you create. And he did, in fact, do that, as I mentioned before. So one has to embrace their challenges and then their financial challenges. And then once we address those, then we take action. But then we also want to be learning and how to become better decision makers. In other words, let's say if someone is advertising a nice sports vehicle and you need a new vehicle and you just decide, well, it's worth it to me to get this car. I'll just have to pay for it. And that's just the way life is. So a person may have that scarcity mindset at that time, but what they should really do is just make that assessment that, well, what I do today, the decision I make today, how will it impact me tomorrow? How will it impact my family tomorrow? And you have to take that perspective, whether you are an employee or if you're an entrepreneur. You have to really think things through. And the better decisions we make results in the better results that we receive. And then we want to also be able to take control of our finances. And what I mean by taking control of our finances is knowing where every penny goes. You say penny, Paul? Yeah, every penny. We need to have what's called money mindfulness. We need to think about money just as we think about breathing, or if we drink water, it's essential to our bodies. We need to take that particular approach and have that relationship with our money, because we need to be able to take control of it. Because if we don't, we'll find ourselves in that hole and then that quicksand, and we're digging all along. So we have to be very cognizant of it. And it reminds me of that story about one of my role models, which is Warren Buffett. And Warren Buffett, people ask him, well, you're worth about $200 billion. How come you just have the house? You're still living in the house you moved into when you got married. And he got married in 1958, and he still lives in the same house. Or why don't you get a nice fancy car? You can afford it. Well, he said, well, you can only drive one car at a time, and it's just going from point A to point B. So my quote to you is this: if it's good enough for Warren Buffett, it's got to be twice as good enough for us. And remember this quote: rich people live like they're poor, and poor people live like they're rich. And that should tell you everything you need to know. Where the poor people are trying to keep up with the Joneses, they want to live in a gated community, and a wealthy person typically lives in a normal neighborhood. They don't drink champagne, they drink beer. They don't eat caviar. They might have a club sandwich. And this is from research that I've been conducting over the years. And so when we get down to it, we want to be able to control our money and not allow our money to control us. And yeah, one more thing about Warren Buffett. He boasts about the fact that he has a McDonald's card. He has this senior card and he uses it. He's like, well, how come you're not eating in a fancy restaurant? Well, he said, you're just eating for nourishment. You're not necessarily eating for how fancy the food is. So it really it says a lot about the individual, about rich people and how they think. Rich people think in terms of when they go in debt, it's appreciating, but poor people typically invest in things that are depreciating. For example, Warren Buffett, he's going to invest in some stock. He's one of the best that's ever done it. And he's gotten a lot of great results from it. But if a person goes out and they're middle class or they're poor and they buy a brand new car, it's going to take a while for them to pay that car off, and it's going to be depreciating time they work off that lot. I'm just saying. And then let's look at what's important. We want to look at what the scarcity mindset is. Of course, it's the opposite of abundant mindset. An abundant mindset is the definition of growth, and scarcity mindset is the definition of lack. And the two are totally different. They're different mindsets. So a scarcity mindset will perpetuate even more debt over time. And it's they people take the approach that, well, that's just the way it is. You're going to have to pay for something. You're going to be in debt for something, but they're not looking at the long run. And the long run is when it comes to looking at an abundance and growth mindset, is that you're planning to perhaps one day to retire or own a business. and retire from that. And so when we start to look at the difference between scarcity mindset and looking at the growth mindset, the better choice is definitely the growth mindset. We want to get away from the scarcity mindset where we're in perpetual debt our entire lives. And then I want to just talk about the fact that we must believe in ourselves from a financial perspective as well, that we know that we deserve to have the very best and we can have it, but we must be cognizant and intentional about making good things happen. And you could be in debt up to your ears right now, but that's not what's important. What's important is what are you going to be tomorrow, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, when you ultimately retire. That's what's most important, and that's what I don't want you to forget. And so, what I covered, of course, I'm coming to a conclusion with this episode. But the 5 things that we covered when it comes to debt freedom is to be willing to address money challenges and then develop a debt free mindset and then start making a plan and then take action to achieve financial stability and then having that growth money mindset and then start planning for your financial freedom today. I think it's very important that we do this because we want to give ourselves the best chance we possibly can. Now, before we leave, remember I talked to you about the fact that I'll have a follow on video or episode that will come after this one. And I want you to look forward to it where I cover more aspects of how growth money mindset can unlock financial freedom. And what I want you to do now is for you to let your family, friends, and your colleagues know about Wealth Academy podcast. I have over 280 episodes of my podcast that have been produced. However, for YouTube, I'm just taking out the financial part that I believe that you need, and that's what I want you to look at. So when you go to www.youtube.com/ the @Wealth Academy podcast, you'll be able to find a ton of episodes out there that you can review. And I think that you're going to like what you see. Anything from, for example, a baby boomer leaving an inheritance to their Generation Z children. And people commented and stated, well, wouldn't that be more millennial? I said, no, there are quite a few baby boomers that had Gen Z children. And so we have that out there. I talk about whole life insurance policies and much, much more. So this is going to conclude this particular episode, but get out there, leave some comments on this episode. And also you can go to my podcast as well, and you can also leave some comments there. But my time is up and I look forward to yours. Again, my name is Paul Lawrence Vann, and thank you so much. I'm really invested in your success, your financial success, looking at personal finances, and then helping you to become debt free and ultimately to become financially free. I'll see you on the next episode. Of course, that follow up episode is a continuation from this one, but have a great day. And thank you very much. And I look forward to seeing you very soon. Enjoy your day. Take care for now. Paul Lawrence Vann, checking out. Have a great day.